Welcome to Freeway Moments. In this episode we will be looking at slicing images. There are times when slicing an image into smaller pieces is advantageous. With other web design tools you would have to do this in a separate image editing application such as Photoshop. However, Freeway does this for you automatically. I'll be using Freeway Pro for this moment, but the techniques shown will also work in Freeway Express. I have here a picture of some 3D specs and a couple of buttons. The buttons are rollovers and will change colour in the browser when the mouse pointer moves over them. I'd like these buttons to be part of the main image, and when I move them onto the main image they change to the alternative colour immediately, and when I preview they don't work at all. What has happened is that Freeway has automatically combined the images, and what we want to do is to stop that from happening. So if I select the image of the glasses and go to the inspector palette and switch off combined graphics, you'll see that firstly the buttons have returned to the state they were before I moved them, and if I go to preview you'll notice that they actually work. What Freeway does is it slices the background image up into pieces to fit around the rollover. And if I move the images around, next time I publish or preview, Freeway will rebuild the images to accommodate the new rollovers, just like that. So let's have a look at this page in the browser, just so we can see what's happening. As you can see, we've got our image and the buttons change colour when we move over them. So I can just show you that the image has been sliced up to fit around the rollovers. And if we return to Freeway and move the buttons around and then republish, you will see that the images have been resliced to accommodate the new position of the buttons. This is a real time-saving feature of Freeway. This will take you much longer to do in any other web design application. Another thing we can do with image slicing is to control the quality of an image. Here we have a picture which is a combination of graphic elements and photographs. And what we want to do is to make sure that all the elements of this picture look as good as they can on a web page. Now if we go to View and Graphics Preview, we'll actually see what the image looks like when it's output by Freeway. Now this is it as it looks as a JPEG, and the photograph doesn't look too bad, but the solid colours and the type looks a bit woolly. And you'll also notice around the edges of the boxes there's a lot of noise as well. Now if we switch this to a GIF, what will happen is that the type and the solid colours look nice, but the photograph looks grainy. And we've also now created an image which is about 45K, which is something we don't want. So the solution is to break the image up into a series of elements and set those elements to be the graphic format best suited for that particular part of the picture. So we've had a quick look at the image. We've got an area of red, we've got an area of white, a photograph, a drawing and a black outline. And what we need to do is to think about how we can break this image down into pieces. And the first thing we want to do is to break the image where the red and the white meet. So if I draw a graphic box to cover the red area of that picture, and now I can control the amount of colours which will be output by just that area of the image. So if I drag down the colours to about 32, and I'm going to switch dither off because we're getting some fuzziness around the drop shadow. Now don't worry about how the girl or the box are going to look because we'll deal with that later. We can do much the same thing with the top area of the image, which is in fact the background image itself. And again we can take that down to probably 16 colours because we've only got black and white we want to work with in this particular instance. And again we can switch dither off just to tidy up the shadow a bit, make it look a bit nicer. As you'll remember from my graphics moment, the GIF image format loves really solid areas of colour and the JPEG format prefers areas of continuous tone like photographs. So what we want to do now is to make these two images, the little girl and the freeway box, into JPEGs. So to start off with, just to avoid any confusion, I'll select the bottom image we created and switch combine graphics off for that as well. So let's draw another graphic box over the freeway box. Just make sure it fits nice and snugly. And instead of a GIF, we want this to be a JPEG. And immediately the box looks much nicer. And we'll do the same thing for the little girl on the other side. Make sure that fits nicely. And then make that a JPEG. I think the text on the image needs a little bit more control than we've got over it already. So I'll draw out another graphic box, and I'm making sure that this lines up as closely as I can with the other images, and this helps Freeway when it comes to build the framework for this entire sliced image. It just means there's less to download to the browser. I'm going to make this a GIF, which it already is. I'm going to make it output about 32 colours, and that looks about right to me. By slicing an image up like this, we get extra control over the quality of the picture. And I think there's a little bit of furriness around the edge of the freeway box, so I can up the quality of just that area to a high value so that that furriness goes away. And I'll do much the same to this part of the picture as well. Right, so let's see how this looks in the browser. And that looks pretty good. As you can see, our image has been sliced up, and that will be a JPEG, and this will be a GIF, and this again will be a JPEG. So what we have is an image which looks better than it did if it had all been output as just a JPEG or just a GIF. So in this moment we've looked at slicing images. We've seen that you need to have combined graphics switched off if you want to put rollovers over a larger picture. We've also seen how we can use slicing to control the quality of an image which has a mixture of different kinds of elements in it, such as text and pictures and photographs. You could also use this technique to control the size of the download of some pictures, and some people even use it to protect their image by breaking it up into lots of little tiny pieces so that people can't just drag one big picture off onto their desktop at one go. So that's the end of this moment. There'll be another one around shortly, so stay tuned and goodbye for now.